This is the Spirit and Wellness Show. News and information from a higher perspective. With your host, Harry Wilkinson.
Yes, and welcome to the Spirit and Wellness Show. I am your host, Harry Wilkinson. And this is the show where we take a look at the days and weeks events, happenings in the world of politics, technology, science, religion, entertainment, everything that affects our world, or what we believe is our world. And we look at it from a higher perspective. From a higher perspective, those of you who've been listening to the show before understand what I mean by that. I mean by, some might call it a spiritual perspective or a metaphysical perspective. But it's the kind of thing where we take a step back from stories that might seem a bit overwhelming, whether they are alarming or button pushing or just kind of playing upon our worst fears and prurient interests. And we take that step back and we remember who and what we are. And from a spiritual perspective, what that means is that we are one, in essence. I like the term divine mind, where we all sort of connect. And that we are on that level, on that highest level of our being, which is beyond our physical, everyday, sort of mundane being. From that perspective, at that level, we are creating everything. We are creating it all. And we're telling a story. We're telling a story about ourselves. We are creating, I've likened it to virtual reality, where you're immersed in a scenario and it feels very real. And what you see and what you hear is remarkably vivid, and it could be something that is thrilling or scary or delightful or happy, but we are creating those out of the same creative energy that is essentially us. And that in that creation, we are attempting to experience something, have an understanding of something, but ultimately to reconnect and remember who we are. Because, and here's the rest of the theory, is that when we immerse ourselves in the virtual reality of this world, of the mundane life that we live day to day, we forget who and what we really are. It's actually part of the process. Sort of a forgetting and remembering kind of thing. And so part of the game, if you will, is to have that amnesia, to forget for a while who and what you really are until you remember it again. And then the game changes. So, from that metaphysical experience, or that metaphysical perspective, if you will, everything has a purpose to it. And if you engage with it, if you go into it, and maybe you feel all the feelings that it brings up, and you let them come up, and you let them go down, and you ride with it, eventually you get to a point where you have an understanding that this is a creation, that this is something that you don't have to view as negative or positive or place any particular meaning or value to, other than it's a creation. And as a creation, it has something to bring to you. And then you can go in and you can actually take energy from that, recognize what it is and your part in creating it. And then once you engage with that, take the energy from it, it changes. And you expand. That's my approach to what I'm talking about on this show. And so I try to look at, news, stories, the information that we generally get funneled through talk radio or talk shows or pundits or, the 24-hour news cycle or what have you, and take it out of that and funnel it through a different perspective, a higher perspective. So that's my mission on this show, and I started doing it for me, just to remind myself of that and to keep me focused and not get pulled away, if you will, by the machinery of the media, if you will. And in doing this for me, I'm sharing it with others as well, and maybe it helps. I hope it does. So, last week, we were talking about something that the physicist Stephen Hawking recently said. Now, I've heard, since that show aired, I've heard comments from people saying, oh, he's just trying to get some publicity for his new documentary. And, it's coinciding with the premiere of his new documentary, which is called, what is it called here? Tomorrow's World. And the episode in which he's talking about this in particular is called Expedition New Earth. And what he's saying is basically, we need to be prepared to leave Earth within 100 years. Now, yes, you're right. It does coincide with his documentary, and it's pretty startling. But this is not new, what he's saying. And he's been saying it for a long time. Back in November, he stated that he felt that within the next 1,000 years, humans will need to find another place to habitate, due to a variety of things. Global warming is just one of those things, but terrorism and the threat of nuclear destruction is another, and asteroids, which we've come to find out increasingly have been hurtling towards Earth a lot more than scientists initially thought, and we have very little defense against them, although more effort and more money is being put into creating defenses to pick up on when these asteroids are coming and having the ability to destroy them. But we're not there yet, let's just say that. So all of these things are leading Mr. Hawking to determine that, well, at first he said, as I said, back in November, he said we had about 1,000 years. But now, he's changed that and shortened it to 100 years. And why has he done that? Well, things have changed. Things have changed, and Mother Earth may very well end her lease with us, if you will. So here's what he actually said. or according to the BBC, Professor Stephen Hawking thinks the human species will have to populate a new planet within 100 years if it is to survive. With climate change, overdue asteroid strikes, epidemics, and population growth, our own planet is increasingly perilous. And his documentary series, Expedition New Earth, explores how we might be able to do that. But he's recently been talking quite a bit about how we need to find a planet B. In order to start thinking about resettling, if you will. Remaining on Earth any longer, he claims, places humanity at great risk of encountering another mass extinction. We must continue to go into space for the future of humanity. I don't think we will survive another 1,000 years without escaping beyond our fragile planet, he said. And these are all excerpts of a speech that he gave at Oxford University Union. Our picture of the universe, he says, has changed a great deal in the last 50 years, and I am happy if I've made a small contribution. Now, some of his most explicit warnings have revolved around the potential threat posed by artificial intelligence. That's computers being able to learn and think like humans, only better. In Hawking's analysis, humanity's daunting challenge is twofold: develop the technology that will enable us to leave the planet and start a colony elsewhere, while avoiding the frightening perils that might be unleashed by the same technology. He says, I think that the development of full artificial intelligence could spell the end of the human race. That's from 2014. Even though it is currently quite useful, developing AI could prove fatal. Certainly we've seen movies that play on that fear. Everything from, the Terminator films to, just about every monster film has some take on that kind of thing. So, and here's the thing now, on this show we don't do doom and gloom so much as we do a hopeful analysis. Let's put it that way. But this is clearly something that we are going to have to deal with. And it doesn't have to be something that's terrifying. It doesn't have to be doom and gloom. Even if we were and had been the best stewards of the planet possible, this could be happening. Now, maybe it's happening sooner than it would otherwise. That might very well be true. But change happens. And Earth, or any other planet, is not forever. Now, there are people who object to this idea, and they say we should be focusing our efforts on taking care of our planet, Earth, instead of going out trying to find other planets. And as I said last week, I think we can do both, and should. Just because you don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we could finally bring our greenhouse gases down and take the steps that we need to take to, mediate global warming,